update. Okay, so it's going. So for my other coaches out there, this is lesson 6 on cardio. And I did put together a quick little, just something to kind of go through. We're just going to start with the types, and this will probably be redundant to you, Amanda, but we'll just kind of build from there. So the types that I use anyways, there might be other types, are you got your LISS, low intensity, steady state. You've got your HIIT, high intensity, interval training, and you've got your MISS, which is more of a steady state, around 100 and I'd say 30 to 140 beats per minute is about your MISS. LISS, I usually tell people anywhere about 110 to 130. I will tell you that people who, and you probably know all this, but I'm just going through it. People who like had a sports background, their LISS heart rate is going to be lower. Mine is normally about 95, and I could be walking with someone and they're at about 120 and I'll be at 95 and we're keeping pace. So sometimes, it's going to be lower for people who are, who are athletes, especially who ran a lot at one point in their life. And that's okay, because for me to crank it up to 120, it becomes more like a MISS session, and that's how it would feel. I wouldn't be able to talk. In LISS, I always, if people get you get beginners, I'm like, well, you should be able to carry a conversation. You might be a little out of breath, but you should carry a conversation. HIIT, you shouldn't be able to, and MISS, you really wouldn't be able to either. MISS would kind of be like a jog for a lot of people. So LISS, 110 to 130, but it will be a little different for athletes, and I usually kind of point that out if necessary. And you got your high intensity interval training, and the point of that is to spike the heart rate really high. And I usually use a spin bike for that, but gosh, you can use ropes, you can use elliptical, so many different ways to perform it. And then there's a lot of different ways to kind of set that up too, so we'll go into that as we get down below. But high intensity, you're going to have a really high heart rate. You're not going to burn fat during it. You're going to burn glycogen. It's the fat that you burn after that's really important, that 24-hour afterburn. MISS, other than talking about it right now, we're going to kind of throw it out. I don't really ever have anyone jog, and I don't really use it as my form of cardios. So it's LISS and HIIT for me as a coach. So how to use them? Let's start with HIIT. What I do is I like to use HIIT early in the prep. This is really important. This is kind of how I do things. Some coaches don't use HIIT at all. They feel that over time it's tough on the central nervous system, and they don't use it at all. I believe it's good to use early when glycogen's higher. You got more carbs in the diet. You still feel good. I think it's a good way to jumpstart fat loss pretty quickly, especially while there's a lot of fat to lose. So I'm a big proponent of HIIT. I usually have people do, let's see, I start light. So I start at 5 intervals, and it's usually a lot of times I go post-workout. I don't go fasted with HIIT. I worry about muscle loss, but we will discuss the people that I do sometimes put fasted HIIT in. But let's say general people with a decent metabolism, we are not going to do HIIT fasted. We're going to do 5 intervals to start, maybe 2 times a week post-workout, and I'm going to have them do 20 seconds hard as they can, and then a minute rest, and then repeat. So it doesn't take that long. And I actually send a video most of the time of Ben Pakulski. You can Google it. You could just look up Ben Pak, P-A-K, and you'll find it, doing what's called Wingate sprints. And it's a form of HIIT where you do the Wingate for like 30 seconds and then you rest like 2 minutes. But his effort is the effort I want people to understand. So if you're dealing with someone who's new and they've never really done HIIT, send them that video. It's Ben Pak. doing wind gates. You'll find these on a bike, and that'll set the tone for them. Because if someone's never really done this, or they were never really an athlete, they really don't know what their body's capable of. And I find that people don't push as hard as they could on these. Yeah. So that's kind of how I set the times up, and I use it post workout. But I usually do the 20 seconds, 1 minute as mine. And then we go post workout with it, like I said. And then I prefer, personally, the spin bike. Okay. And there is some literature out there that says that you can, let me get this right, you can spot reduce in the legs using HIIT. You can increase fat oxidation in the legs using HIIT. So in my opinion, then you want something where you can really crank up the tension on the legs then. So I use a spin bike, and then I use the Tabata app interval for the Droid phones, and that will set up your 20 second one, because a lot of spin bikes don't have like the time on them. Mm-hmm. But I will let people use pretty much any machine they want that they can get their heart rate up to about 150, 160, and I will use. I even have people, have you ever heard of like dead mill sprints?
Yeah, those are awful.
They're terrible. But like if you got like a stubborn person, like fat loss, those are pretty amazing. But yeah, they're a nightmare. And if you start someone on those, you could put it down to 10 second, like a 10-second interval and then a minute recovery.
Those are nauseating. I've done them like probably like 3 or 4 times, and I'm like, those are terrible.
Yeah, they are. But they will work, and they get people moving. Because to get that belt going, you have to be churning. So, that is one that I'll put in if someone that I know they're just going to be a stubborn fat loss candidate. And then LISS, I like it fasted. Now, there's a lot of controversy out there about, fasted, it's not necessary. If you just do it later in the day, it's the same. I still disagree, because I feel like later in the day, if you're going to do it later in the day, you're going to have to put more effort into the endeavor. Whereas in the morning, when your blood sugar's low, you haven't eaten carbs, I feel like you can really just kind of coast along at that 110 where it's very easy on the body, and you're burning fat easier. I feel like you have to get closer to a miss if you're going to do it later in the day after you've eaten carbs and things. That's my feeling. That's my take. I personally do my LISS in the morning when I'm competing. I just feel like I do better, and I don't have to push my body as hard. And to me, if I don't have to push my body as hard on cardio, I think that's a win to still get the added fat loss. But again, you're going to come along. A lot of coaches say, oh, it don't matter. If you do 300 steps during it each time, it doesn't matter. You're burning the same amount of calories. You're burning the same amount of fat. Doesn't matter. Just in the real world and with my own body, I found that I like the morning because I feel like you don't have to crunch or crush the exercises hard getting near that miss. So I start with generally, if I had to start somewhere with someone, it might be 2 to 3 fasted LISS sessions of 20 minutes and 2 by 5 hits post-workout. And that would be fairly simple to get someone started on a cut. Now, if they have really great genetics or they're already ahead, I might not start them with any. That's a call for the coach. But I'm just saying, a lot of people that I get, they have love handles, they have, droopy butts. You got all this shit that you got to start really taking care of. And, so I generally start with cardio, and kind of what I just said is where I start and then add from there.
So, question for you, because I'm just using myself as an example. So the way that you set me up, you have me doing 1 LISS and then 2 hits.
Yeah.
And so is the purpose just because, I don't know, I don't need to be burning through
You don't need to be burning as much. We're not in prep. Remember, this is more for a prep focus. I have that in you, one for heart health, and two, I have it so that I could push calories up, which we really haven't been able to do because of stress and everything else. But I have that in there so we could push calories up, and you would stay somewhat lean, so you wouldn't freak out. But I have no cardio. Like I never put cardio in my off season unless I want some heart health or something. I just don't use it because I stay pretty lean, and I think you probably would have too. But I put it in there more as a mental thing and to make sure you didn't get too much body fat.
Okay.
So off season cardio for women, it's definitely helpful as you're trying to get calories up to a reasonable amount where you can cut, Now, we're on how to use them, so I'm going to go over this. There are times, well, let me go down to the next, when to use them, because that's more what this covers. So we've already kind of said, I use HIITs early in the prep. I use them post-workout. There are times with stubborn clients, let's say mostly endomorphs, or even women that are prepping in their body, you've already got their calories pretty low. There are times I will put HIIT fasted with a couple scoops of BCAAs. And that's a coach's call. But my point in telling you that is there's no rules. You can break the general rules, especially if you've pulled most of your other punches and you just, you've got to get some fat loss going. And what that does is it gets you burning for, the rest of the day. It's hard as hell because, you just got out of bed, you're hungry, you're dieting. So I do normally give 2 scoops of BCAAs and some caffeine. If they're not natural, then they might get their Clin and yohimbine or whatever pre to try to give them energy. But there are times when I will do that. But other than that, LISS will be morning fasted. And then let's say we're about 4 weeks out and they're on schedule. That's about when I start looking to pull HIIT. And just then I'll use LISS post-workout as well. So let's say someone was on, they got up to 45 minutes of 7 days a week of LISS in the morning. And they're on 3x15 HIITs post-workout. I might pull those HIITs post-workout and put in like a 20x7. So they'll be walking 20 minutes every night and start there and then work that up. And a lot of times, 1, it shocks the body. 2, it rests the central nervous system. And 3, you should be to a point where you don't need to be pounding on the body like that with such low calories. That could then slow the thyroid down. And you don't want that.
So are you saying that you do this like a second time, like a second cardio, like other than fasted? So
yeah, LISS post-workout or in the evening. So you'd have 2 sessions, just like you remember the example, I already had 2 sessions. We were doing HIITs and LISS, and I just pulled the HIITs and put LISSs in. But I put more in. It was like 20x7. So it's easier on the body. It's more time consuming, but it's easier on the body. And they're going to be moving daily instead of just 3 times in the evening. So the big takeaway there is as you get closer to the shows, if you can, pull the HIIT cardio. It's just really hard on the body as that carbs get lower. And I'm not saying I get to do that every time, but that is my goal every time I start a prep. And that's what I'm thinking. All right, I'm going to use my HIITs early, some LISS, and as I get closer and I feel like I can, I'm going to pull the HIIT out. Now, you don't always get to do it, but in a perfect world, that's what you would do. And the way to do it is if you're on schedule, you do it.
Okay.
If you're not on schedule, then you got to do what you got to do. And if they, get some shutdown or whatever, you can use ThyroBoost, or if they are already on it, they'll be fine. Or you might have to tell them, hey, this is going to be a knockdown drag out these last 4 weeks. You'll just have to rest a little longer after the show. So we take all of that into consideration, all the other things you've learned with rest and, digestion, getting them back on, and hormones and all that after the show, especially if you have to push them really hard. But I do like to try to get that HIIT out of there. Okay. Let's see. And then when to use, timing. Let's see. So we already talked about list. We already talked about hit. Benefits of each type. Okay, so the benefit to list is it's much easier on the body, right? It's I think that's the best way to say it. It's parasympathetic friendly. It's not gonna drive you into the ground. You're not burning fat afterwards, though. You're only burning fat during the duration. That's why list ends up being a longer endeavor. So hit, a benefit of it is you can burn a lot of fat early when you feel good. To me, that's a huge benefit. I know when I started my prep and everyone's like, man, you changed fast. I was doing hit daily, but it's because I had body fat on me. I just started prep. I felt amazing. So I was doing hits daily. And that's just me. I don't recommend that for everyone. Not everyone can take that. I was a soccer athlete. My background, I think my body is used to being pounded on like that. I wouldn't start everyone that way, but I was doing it daily at just 5 intervals, and I was burning a lot of fat fast. Now I'm not doing it. So, I'm 2 weeks out. I pulled it about a week ago on me. So I'm following my lead on what I generally do, with cardio. But that's the benefit of it. But, we'll talk about the detriments in a minute. And then the other benefit is it's short. You know what I mean? Like, it's not time consuming. So that's one of those things too, where you got to take into consideration, like, what is your client's time constraints? Like, I've had people who are literally like, I got an hour and a half in the gym, and then I got to pick my kids up. So, they're not going to be able to do 50 minutes of lists like some days I'm doing right now in my last 2 weeks post-workout. They just don't have the time. So that might be where you got to keep hitting, and then you got to come up with other strategies to make sure that, things aren't happening. So as far as like, down regulation of thyroid, maybe, you're going to refeed twice a week because you're keeping hits in. Maybe you're going to do 3 low, 1 high, like we talked about in carb cycling. All those things come back into play based on what you have to use. So, I've had people where I've had to have them do hits daily. And so I do like the 2 refeeds per week just to try to combat that. The best thing to do is always think about, like, all right, what kind of detriment could this have to the hormones? What kind of detriment could this have to the thyroid? And then try to proactively, like, maybe you put in Cordy's, maybe you put in Thyro Boost, and you're like, look, we're just going to crank this out because you don't have the time, and I'm going to refeed you twice, but your calories are low. Otherwise, I can't do anything about it. You got to hustle. So those are things that when you're dealing with cardio, you always just kind of want to think about, and that's why I like to pull hit at the end if I can. But there are benefits to it, of course. Detriments. Go ahead.
Oh, how do you know like when you should be increasing their like intervals? Because you say you start at like 5, and like
just to get fat loss. I mean, if someone checks in and they don't get fat loss, and they aren't keeping your pace, then you've got like 3 choices. You can lower calories, you can increase lists, you can increase hit. You've got 3 choices. So, I can't tell you a surefire formula because there is no surefire formula. There's just not. If someone's at 5 intervals and it's only 2 times a week, I'm sure one of my early moves would be go to 3 to 5 times. So 3 times 5, so 3 per week at 5 intervals because they were at 2. But, once I get past 3 times 15, that starts to worry me on people.
So would you increase days versus say you already have them at like 3 by, like 5 or something like that? And then would you then go to like more days, or would you go to more intervals first?
I would go to more days.
Okay.
So I would go 4 by 5, 5 by 5. And then if I have to, I'd go 5 by 8, 5 by 10, but I personally try not to ever get above 15. I rarely ever make anyone do above 15 intervals. There are coaches that do it. I don't. I think it's a nightmare to the thyroid and the body. But that's why coaching is an art. Like I can't tell you exactly what to do at the time. You have to based on what you're seeing with the client, what type of body type. You just have to be armed with the knowledge of how these things work, and then you have to make the decision on, what's going to be best for the client. Like if it's someone who was in like metabolic comp, I'm probably going to up their list much more before their hits. And that's going to be a person I want to get out of hit, sooner than later if I can. It just all depends on the client and what's going on with them. But generally, if I'm 2x5, I'd go 3x5, 4x5, something like that. Because those 4x5s aren't really that hard on the body. I mean, you're done pretty quickly. It's when they start to get into 10s to 15s that starts to wreak havoc on the body. So that's when, I start to really pay attention and find out what's going on as far as like, if I see a bunch of stalls, I might go ahead and switch that out. Like if I was at already 3x15 or 4x15 and they keep stalling, that's when I like, all right, I'm pulling this out. Let's just go, 40x7 in the morning, 30x7 post-workout. Let your body calm down a little bit and see. And a lot of times moves like that will. So it's a fine line with HIIT because it taxes the central nervous system, but it also is an excellent form of fat burning. So it's a fine line. That's why I like to pull it out.
Okay.
And there are coaches who won't use it at all. I mean, there's coaches who will get their clients up to, a lot of women, 2.5 hours of bliss because they just don't use HIIT at all. Okay. That sounds like a nightmare to me, but if that works too, do it. I just like a balance and then get it out, and then I don't have to have them doing 2.5 hours of walking every day plus trying to train with weights. It doesn't work with a lot of my clients' schedules. If all they are is a single person and they're going after their pro card, that might work for them. But a lot of my clients and a lot of your clients, probably that's not going to work.
What about people that are like, like everybody's into steps and meat and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. So like people that are getting like 10,000 to like 15,000 steps. I mean, like,
I don't get into it. I don't know. I have no idea. I think it's, I don't know. I mean, I guess that's where I'm old school in that I don't count steps. I know Alberto and them count steps. I'm not fucking counting my steps with it. I just don't do it. Like you as a coach, if you think it works, you could certainly play around with it, get your step counter and see how much, but like...
Well, because everybody has Fitbits and like freaking Apple Watches and all that bullshit now, so it's like... Okay.
I have none of it. I have no idea. I'm traditional. I don't know. It all, I guess, would work. I just don't know how to... I don't even know how to increase it.
My reasoning, or the only question I was behind that is because like some people that are like super sedentary at work, obviously, and sit all day long, like, they're not moving around as much. So obviously, like, I mean, you kind of have to get their cardio up, but people that are freaking like moving, like there's people that are just like obsessive about that shit. So it's like, would you then kind of scale back or would you still kind of apply like...
Well, I can tell you this. I had a client who's a personal trainer and he tracks all that. And I really didn't give two shits about his steps. But I knew because he's loading and unloading plates all day and he, trains 13, 14 clients, I didn't use cardio at all with him. I just carb cycled him.
Okay.
So.
All right, that was more my question.
Yeah, if someone's got a high NEAT, just start low or don't even start with any. And that's why I did that. But I've never used it, so I don't know how to set it up. Like, I don't know how Alberto and them do it. Like, do they just tell their clients, all right, I need 10,000 steps? I don't know. I don't know what they do,
Or I think I saw, was it Lauren Conlon post something, and she's like, I take a 10-minute walk, or 10 minutes, I walk after every meal or something. Like, Cliff was, like, having her walk, and I was like, what is that? Like, what is it supposed to do? Like, I saw her post that probably, like, really early in her prep this time. I have no idea.
So I guess... I didn't think Cliff used that, and I think Cliff prepped her this time, but maybe he does use steps now. I thought he did cardio. But maybe he was telling her, I need you to get 4,000 steps right now. And she found out that if, after she ate and did, 800 steps each time, that got her 4,000. I don't know,
Okay. I was just
It's
curious.
something you could certainly play with. It's just nothing that I've ever played with.
Got
I
it.
just stick to the traditional cardio.
Hey, whatever works.
Yeah, and steps. It's just another. I mean, when you're walking on a treadmill, you're taking steps. So, like,
Exactly.
it's just another way to track it. I think I don't know.
Like for me, like I used to be more in the gym. Like I was a CrossFit coach for like years, so I
Right.
was always moving, loading bars, doing whatever. And then now I just personal train probably like I have 4 clients that I train a couple times a week. So it's
Right.
like drastically gone down. And then I sit in front of the computer because I'm
Yep.
answering client emails.
Yep.
So I went from like super active to more like sitting. So I'm almost a little bit more ADD and I have to get up and like move
Yeah.
or I feel like, well, shit.
But they
Like,
say that's the healthiest. You shouldn't just sit straight. You should get up and move. They say every 30 minutes.
oh yeah, I do. And then like if I have to go pee, I will make myself walk upstairs and then
Mhm.
walk back down. Like so I'm not
So
like
you're getting more, and that's all right. And you're getting your
yeah.
knee. I mean, you could certainly track your steps and play with it, and come up with a. That's all they've done. They've tracked their steps and played with it and came up with a system. If you have a system that works, this is
I
just
mean,
how
yeah,
I track it.
I have a Fitbit because I wanted to track like my heart rate and stuff. So I have it, but like my steps, like I see these people that are getting like 15 to 20,000 steps,
Right.
and I'm like, that's insane. Like,
Right.
do you know how hard it is to get 10?
Exactly.
It's hard.
Exactly. So I mean,
Shit.
at each client first, you'd have to have them get this thing, and then you'd have to have them track their day, and then you have to add steps to it to start the cardio. But all you're doing is really just telling them to do cardio. It's just they're doing it in steps. So
Yeah.
I don't really know much about it. I mean, I get the whole process. I just don't have a system for it to teach you. I'm just
No,
old school, man.
that's fine. I was just more so saying, like, is it going to hurt you if, like I get up and freaking I have to move around. So even if I take the dogs for a walk or, like,
Yeah.
try to do something, like, I'm like, that's not, if you're adding stuff on top of it and you're a person that likes to get a lot of steps in, is that going to, like, hurt
Well,
you or anything? So,
Here's like generally what happens though, like, so if someone starts a fat loss program and they don't have a great metabolism and they're used to, like you said, going to walk the dog and stuff, right away they're going to need activity on top of that to start the fat burning process. So that's where I just add cardio. But someone who counts steps would just say, all right, you're doing 4,000. I need you to do 6,000 a day. And I assume then they just start from there. And if that works, good. If it doesn't, they adjust and add it to 7. I got to imagine that's how they do it. But that requires someone to already have the Fitbit. And not too many of my clients say, oh, yeah, I track my steps. I just don't really have people say that much to me.
yeah. It's
So-
kind of like, it kind of cracks me up, but everybody's into it now.
I-
So I see it a lot.
Honestly, I
with my
think it's
clients.
just another gimmick, another way of doing something. Someone's like, oh, Landon Collins cardio, I'm going to track my steps. And then, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's all moving. And then I thought we'd go over, well, I don't know if I did detriments. So
No, you
detriments,
didn't do detriments.
lists. So there's some science to suggest that by doing a ton of lists, you are overly training the slow twitch fiber muscles, which is definitely not what you want. You want, fast twitch is what HIIT kicks in. And in doing that, you're down regulating the body and causing metabolic processes to slow. There is that literature out there. HIIT, as I already said, can stress the central nervous system, making you more sympathetic dominant, and then that can also then lower metabolic processes. So what's the takeaway from that? I mean, we got to get something and we got to get moving. So I think the takeaway really is you got to figure out your client. If they've got history of over dieting, if they've got history of metabolic issues, they might be one where you got to use a little more lists. If you've got a man who's got an awesome metabolism, but he's short on time, doesn't seem like he's gonna be a problem, use more HIIT. Kind of, you got to kind of take what you know about the benefits and the problems, and then build the best, rocket ship for them, basically, because there's detriments to both and there's benefits to both. And you don't want to overuse either of them. But like I said, I know some coaches that prep national people that always look great. And like I said, most of their women do 2.5 hours of LISS nonstop. I mean, it's a lot of what they end up doing. So, and it works for them. But I don't know if they're on thyroid meds, if he uses T3. I don't know all that. I don't know the answer to that. But I like a mix. And then I like to look at the client, and manage it from that perspective. And we've gone through all the hormone issues and things that can happen. So you kind of, have that background. So it all kind of comes full circle when you're building a plan.
Okay.
Now, fat loss stacks. I thought we'd go over this. So let's say it's a natural, because I think more of your clients will be natural, but we're going to go over both. I like yohimbine, about 10 milligrams in the morning, with about 2 to 3 grams of carnitine, L-carnitine. In a perfect world, they would take that about 20 minutes before they start, but, it doesn't always work. When I was really, really, really anal, going after my pro card in the 2010s, I would set my alarm, take that shit, and then snooze twice so that it was ready when I'd get up. I don't do that anymore, but I used to. So you can get anal as shit on it. And I used to make my clients do that. But now I'm just like, just take it, get it in you. So that's like the main stack I like for naturals. Get your yohimbine in you, get your L-carnitine in you. Now, what I do for naturals, let's say about 4 weeks out when you get to stubborn fat, this is a little trick. Have them take that stack but add a GDA. Now, they're going to feel a little shitty because we're driving blood sugars down. We're clearing any blood sugar that's left to get right into fat burning. But just tell them, they might feel just a little nauseous for like 2 minutes. Just drink some water and get through it. Some of them might not, but some people, like if you took our GDA Max, you're probably going to feel a little nauseous. It's going to take you a little low, but that's what you want. So now we're going to be creating a really nice fat burning environment to get the last stubborn fat off. Now, don't do that right away because, one, it makes you feel shitty, and 2, you want to wait till they get down to the stubborn fat. Okay? Now, non-naturals. I like to add Clen. And this is going to depend on where they're at in their dosing. You can go up to 100 mics total, so that might be like 50 in the morning and 50 pre-workout. I personally never go above 40, so I got 20 in the morning and then 20 pre-workout. That's my tolerance for it. I don't struggle to lose fat, so I don't use it that harshly. But you would take some pre-workout, and then you can take oral carnitine, 2 to 3 grams with it, and that's fine. But there is injectable carnitine. It's called Synthetech. SYNTHENTEK.
Can you spell that again? It's
SYNTHE, Synthetech, TEK.
Okay.
And it's real clean. Like you can put it in any muscle. It's best to shoot it intramuscularly, and you'll do 3 cc's of it, which is 600 milligrams of injectable carnitine, and that goes right into the body. And then what you can do is you can take 1 IU of insulin, and that's going to shove that shit right into the muscle. There's no better fat burning stack pre-cardio than Clen, injectable L-carnitine, and 1 IU of insulin.
Now, is that dangerous?
No, because it's only 1 IU of insulin. It's only 1 IU of insulin. You're going to feel shitty, but it's fine.
Okay.
Now,
and is that hard for people to get insulin?
No, not at all. Okay. Insulin's easy. You can go into Walmart and get insulin. You can get Reliant R at Walmart. The insulin I'd want there is Humalog. It's the fastest acting. But you can go to Walmart and get it. Anyone can, because they passed a law a while ago that says we're not going to withhold someone's insulin just because they don't have their doctor script on them. Because someone could be in a diabetic, hypo situation. I'm sorry, not hyper, when their sugars are really spiked and they need to get them down, and they're running into a pharmacy, so they just sell it to you. But it's only 1 IU. 1 IU, your body can handle about 3 to 4 IUs without food. You're just going to feel real shitty. 1 IU, you get nauseous for like 2 minutes and it's gone. So no, it's not dangerous at all. But that is the ultimate stack for burning fat, pre-cardio. And again, that's for your, obviously, more advanced people who are used to giving themselves shots and things of that nature.
So for the clean, is that how do you take that?
Mouth,
Is it
oral.
okay? And you said some people have like 50 a.m.
Some people are up that because they take 100 a day.
Okay, but you said you only do
20. Yep.
And you would know tolerance. You would start them lower then?
Oh yeah, you start your people at like 20. We went over this on subs, but I don't mind going over it again. But just so you know, it's in your notes.
No, that's fine.
But you start people usually at 20, like total.
Yeah.
And then you work up like 20 mics every 2 weeks up to like 120, 100. But like I said, some people you don't have to go that high. I never go higher because I get anxiety and I just don't like being jacked up anyways. And I burn fat easy. But you got stubborn women who just don't burn fat well, and so they usually get up to 100, 120.
Okay.
You would never need 100. You're pretty lean as it is, but I mean, you know these clients we get that have love handles and
Oh yeah.
I mean, so if they're willing to use that, it helps. But obviously, most of the time, it's going to be your people who've already used VAR and your Novodexes and things like that. Most people aren't going to want to use Clean, even though it's oral, if they're like natural or just a general lifestyle.
Okay.
But those are my little tricks for fat loss stack with the LISS cardio. And those work pretty well. Let me make sure I didn't forget any of them.
With the GDA, I was going to ask you. So, do you take your GDA with your post-workout meal, or no?
I do in prep.
But not in prep, you don't?
No. I feel it's a waste. You're already so insulin sensitive from training that you don't really need one.
Because I don't. I was just curious on that. If Okay.
But in prep, I do. I figure every little bit helps to shuttle. But it's probably a waste even in prep too. But I mean, I got easy access to it, so I just take it.
Have you ever heard of anybody? And maybe you were the one that answered this because I asked on the New Ethics IG page. I've had 2 clients tell me that it cleans them out.
Like you mean like they go to the bathroom right away?
Yeah, they literally could not stop going to the bathroom. Like it was like an instant change when they took it. And it was like at first I heard a client say that like a month, like she bought it and she's like, I can't do it. I tried it twice and it did the same thing to me. And I was like, that's so weird. I've never heard that. So I kind of just disregarded it. And I was like, well, maybe she's sensitive to something that's in there or allergic or who knows. And then I had another client tell me that the same freaking thing happened.
I've never had that with any of them.
Yeah, so I don't know.
Must just be 2, offshoots. I know that berberine, which is one of the big activators in it, acts a lot like metformin, and metformin can do that. So I guess it's possible it's the berberine, although I never really, like I said, I've never had anyone tell me that of my clients, and, I've been using it for a while.
Well, yeah.
But yeah, I guess it could be maybe the berberine that did it. It's just odd that you had 2 people do it, but I think it's flukes. I don't think it's something that's going to happen, regularly. Okay.
Yeah, I haven't had anybody else had an issue with it, just those 2 people. But I was like, oh, weird.
Probably the berberine. Something just upset in their stomach, literally. So. Okay. Any questions on anything on this?
I don't think so. I think it makes a lot of sense. It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, it is. Shorter than a lot of our other ones.
That's fine. I have a couple questions for you though,
Sure.
that are kind of just random.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
Cheryl, the gal who's stubborn, like her lower half
Yes.
looks like shit and
Yes.
like cortisol through the roof. And I'm just like, oh my God, like she kills me because it's like I only have so much control over what she does, like I tell her exactly what to do, but
Right.
like she's only doing, what she's gonna do. And I'm like, okay, but I really want you to take your best presentation to when you get on the freaking stage. And like the WBFF is very like if you look at any of their it's more like bikini esque, so they
Okay.
can be softer. Some girls are harder, some girls are not. But like the fitness diva and whatever, they're kind of like all over the board. There's not really
Right.
like super consistency, but you want to like look good. Well,
Yeah.
she's dying now. We just changed her to the 3 low and
Yeah.
like 1 high, and she's like, oh my god, I'm dying. This is like I'm like so hungry. I'm like, well, tough shit because
Yeah. I mean, it
I'm
wasn't
like,
that bad of a like. I mean, it wasn't like awful adjustment.
no,
I mean, at the end of the day, there's got to be a mental toughness about you to do this, and like,
yeah,
I always when someone has to like pull back and mid prep because they can't handle work and this and that, it's always a red flag on if the prep's going to pull back together because sometimes like the body just I don't know, it just stops responding. I feel like you only have such a long window to get the fat off, and then it's just like at that point you got to kill someone.
yeah.
So I mean, we'll see how she shapes up, but I mean,
I'm a little worried.
what
I'm a
I
little
would tell
worried.
her is, I'm not putting you on stage if you're not ready. Like
Yeah.
so we got to
Well, I
buckle
mean,
down.
she's got her hands in like everything, and I'm like, you need to just really focus on the
Yeah,
show if
yeah.
you're gonna do
It's
it, and
got
if it's this important to you, I'm like,
right.
you've got to just focus on it.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the problem. I don't even know if this might be my last show ever unless I qualify for Olympia. Like, if you're gonna do this, it has to be like the first focus. Unfortunately, like for those 12 weeks or 15 weeks, it's the main focus, or else you're gonna have subpar results. There's just no way around it.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and then my other question is I just got a new gal, and she just started working with me, and she was gonna try to get on stage in December, and so I talked to her. I hadn't seen pictures of her, and she sent me her pictures, and I was like, oh fuck, like
That ain't
I'm like
happening.
this is the girl that's like gonna look like she lost a bet to get on stage, like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
I'm like, this is gonna be a really rough conversation. So then I'm like, well, okay, well maybe if her calories are high, like we might be able to like
Mm-hmm.
not put her on stage in like December, but if I could get her to push this back. Okay, I looked at her calories and like whoever she was working with, like had her it like she was at 800 calories and 1,000, and I was like, fuck, and
Oh God.
she felt like shit, and I'm just like, oh Jesus, like she's completely stalled out. So I looked at all her shit and I was like, all right, so I'm gonna be real honest with you. I'm like, I know this is your
No.
first show, but like you really want to look good when you get on stage. Like, I mean, and as a coach, like I'm not gonna take you to a very unsafe place
No.
with like this little time. I'm like, it's not worth it. Like, if you want to continually do this, like you're gonna fuck your body up. I'm
You
like,
wouldn't
we're
even
not
have been able to get her there because I mean, what
no.
deficit are you gonna like just to pull 500 calories to get a pound off? She's at 300.
I go, there's no way to pull anything from. So like the first thing I was like, all right, go have a cheat meal, go eat because you feel like crap. And I'm like, just go eat and I'll set something up for you. So now I'm like reverse dieting
Yeah.
her up, and I'm gonna try to take her calories way up. And she's like already trying to set another show date. I'm like, let's just hold off
No.
and let's just get you like dialed back in before we do
No.
anything. Like, let's just
Tell her you've got to get her near 2,000 calories before you even discuss shows, and she should be at that amount for 2 months before you even discuss them.
yeah, and that's what I told her.
And that's being quick. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Because that's still only probably like 3.5 months. Because you can probably get her there in like 2 months and then hold it for 2. So yeah, she's gonna have to. She's basically got to start over. So you're
there's
doing
that.
it right, but just try to get her close to 2,000 with the least amount of cardio and the least amount of fat gain. If you can get blood work, that'd help you because if there's any issues, you could supplement to get that so that the calories don't make her fat.
Yeah, she's like more. She looks more like a kind of endomorph. Like, I mean, she's
Yeah,
got
she's probably
really.
estrogen dominant. I would try to get blood work if you could. It's going to
Okay.
help you.
So then my other thing is my client, Meg Davis.
Mhm.
I don't know if you've been talking to her. She said that she's going to reach out to you because she's kind of a finicky one. She did bikini probably about a year ago, and I think she either placed second
Okay.
at her show or something in Hawaii. And so she wants a one-stop shop. She doesn't want to have somebody else do her programming, somebody else do her nutrition. She wants somebody to do it all. So she asked me, and I said, you. So she'll probably come to you, but she's
Okay.
like real. We've been trying to get her cycle back, and I told her that should be her focus because she
Yeah.
hasn't had her period in forever. Her sex drive sucks. Like,
Okay.
you know, her
Have you
motivation.
seen her blood work?
Yeah. So originally, when she started with me, she sent me her blood work that she had either just had done or just had done a few months before. So
Okay.
it was pretty new.
Okay.
And this was probably not even 6 months ago. I don't know, something like that. But like she was low, I think, across the board
Okay.
from what I remember, like testosterone, estrogen, and whatever. So, I mean, I've been working with her to try to like just deal with her hormones. Like we've got her to pull back. Like she's
Do you have
doing
her on
physique
Chaseberry
type
or Profeminal?
Yep.
Chase.
I have her on Chaseberry.
I would probably. It's not working. I would just go to Profeminal 2 in the morning, 2 in the evening, and I'd give her Pregnenolone 50 as well.
What does that do?
Pregnenolone and progesterone are kind of in the same pathway, and they both get pulled from when cortisol's high. So it's just kind of doubling up on that pathway of the hormones. Since all of her hormones are down, then you want to hit her with some Pregnenolone too.
Yeah, and she's not, and I know her hormones have to be pretty messed up because she's also not pooping like very well, like, and she's not regular, but like she also does a ton of vegetables, like a ton. And that's where she's like, well, a lot of my carbs are coming from vegetables. And I'm like, oh dear,
No.
like this
You got to
is not good.
Yeah, you got to get her eating more starches for those carbs. Kick that thyroid in. Hopefully get that regulated. I was her thyroid down?
I don't know if her thyroid was on that original blood work.
No.
Like I would have to go back, but I think it was down. And so she's taking ThyroBoost.
Okay.
She's taking she ordered the Estracort,
Okay.
the GDA Max. And I don't know if she ordered Cordy's or not.
Okay.
If she's taking that, but she's taking all those. But again, I think she's going to think about switching to you because she wants somebody to do all.
Okay.
So I'm like, just to let you know, she's coming. So I'm trying to build up her calories, but I haven't added anything because like she's not going to the bathroom. So
Yeah.
it's like one of those things where I'm like, well,
have you added magnesium citrate?
Yep.
That's not helping.
Mm-mm.
Okay. And she got.
And I mean, her fiber levels at like 45 sometimes.
So that's plenty.
Like 50, it's
Yep.
like plenty. So that's where it made me think of like, okay, something hormone or thyroid or something that would be
well,
like.
slow
keeping her
thyroid
going
would do it. You could always put her on 2 ThyroBoosts if you only have her on 1. 1 might not be enough.
Okay. And then I actually lowered her protein a bit because she sits at like 120 to 122, and she was doing like 140 to 145 on protein. I just pulled her down to see if that would help her go to the bathroom.
I mean, just to see if it was right.
Uh-huh.
I would bump ThyroBoost. I would probably use a stool softener for right now to get her going. I use that because it's not addictive. Senna in the tea can be addictive, and then of course a laxative can be addictive, but stool softeners aren't. And then I'd bump ThyroBoost, and I would put her on progesterone cream, the Profeminal, and I put her on Pregnenolone 50. I think Pure Encapsulations makes one. Okay. And that should get the hormones cranking. And if you can get your period going, once you get that period going, I think a lot of things should probably pop into place. So try that.
Cool. And then for me, one question that I had is like, so I still waiting on Dutch test, which should be back soon.
Yep.
And then I had blood work to get all my thyroid antibodies. I was going to go yesterday, but I started my period yesterday.
Yeah.
So I can't go get blood work right now. I'm trying to think of like, so when would be an optimal time to go Because it's the hormones too.
Anytime once you're, in any of the other phases. So once you're done with your period, you can go.
Okay. So then that should be back quicker than the other one. Okay. But I'll probably go next week.
That's fine. We'll wait for it and see what's going on.
Sorry I'm like the biggest pain in the ass client.
Gotta get your stress figured out.
I know. I'm working on it.
Guys aren't worth it.
I know. They're not. Well, thank you. I appreciate
You're welcome.
it. Like I know you're
and then we will
tired.
Let's see. So this is October. So we'll probably we'll probably just do early November because my show's the 20th, and then literally I fly out like on the 24th for a conference. So like my October is pretty much shot. So we'll probably just do the next one on early November.
That's cool.
Okay.
Can we also, I know we went over it early on, but you know how you do like touch on it like somewhere, different types of carb cycles? Because you went over like one basic carb cycle, but like how you would implement maybe like some different kinds where you're doing like, okay, the 3 low, 1 high, or hey, I'm going to do something where throw in like a keto day or something like that.
Okay.
At all?
We can do that next time.
I know that's kind of random, but like just to kind of
Did I not go over the 3 low and the 1 high?
So no. Well, we didn't go over the 3 low, 1 high. We only went over. You kind of just gave me a basic one where it was just like medium, low, high for a guy, and then medium, low, high for a female.
Yep.
And you said, well, you can kind of change things around just dependently, but like again, when you're getting into people that are like more stubborn, or you're getting into like these like shows, if you're doing people, are there more tricks to it?
Okay.
Like, is there like, go-tos that you use or whatnot?
Okay.
Like even with my regular clients, like I started doing like people who insulin sensitivity sucks, like nothing was working, like even carb cycles kind of didn't work for him. So I actually have one guy, he does kind of like moderate carbs, like in between, but I have him do 2 keto days, and now his body's responding just randomly because I'm like, all right, let's try it. Why not?
Right.
So, and now, it's working. It seems to be. So I just didn't know if you had any kind of like tricks or things like that.
Okay. Sounds good.
Cool.
We'll throw it in with whatever the lesson is for November.
Okay. I appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem. All right. See ya. Bye.
Bye.